Claire had always known she wasn't the favorite. From the moment she was old enough to understand, it was clear that in the Anderson household, value was measured in beauty, grace, and social potential. Unfortunately for her, those were all things her sister, Lily, had in abundance, according to their parents. At least, while Claire buried herself in books, staying up late to perfect essays and ace exams, Lily was being groomed for something far more important, securing a wealthy husband. Their parents spared no expense when it came to her. Dance lessons, etiquette classes, designer clothes, all were considered investments in Lily's future. Meanwhile, Claire was expected to be grateful for second-hand school supplies and library cards. "Claire, you don't need all those fancy programs," her mother would say whenever she asked about college prep courses. "You're smart. Smart girls find a way." It was never a question of whether they had the money. They did. It just wasn't meant for Claire. Her father's words stung even more. "It's not about fairness," he once told her matter-of-factly. "It's about strategy. Lily has a chance to marry well. That benefits the whole family. You'll be fine on your own." Fine on her own. She heard that phrase too many times to count. It was their justification for every unfair decision, every resource withheld. When Claire received a perfect score on her SATs, her mother barely glanced up from her tea. When Lily mentioned she wanted a designer gown for her upcoming debutante ball, their father immediately wrote a check. Claire learned to swallow the resentment, to keep her head down, and work harder. But nothing could have prepared her for the final betrayal. The day she discovered that the college fund her grandparents had left for both daughters had been emptied to fund Lily's extravagant debutante ball, was the day everything changed. Claire had always known she was an afterthought, but she never expected them to steal from her. The college fund her grandparents had left for both daughters was supposed to be her way out. It wasn't much, but it was enough to give her a fighting chance at a good university. A future built on her own hard work. But when she overheard her mother on the phone with the event planner, casually discussing the extravagant floral arrangements and the 5-course dinner menu for Lily's debutante ball, something inside her told her to check. She opened her banking app with shaking hands, scrolling to the account where the money had been saved for years. Balance, $0. Her heart slammed against her ribs. She checked again, refreshing the page as if that would change reality. The money was gone. Claire stormed into the living room, where her parents were sipping tea, flipping through pages of a venue brochure. Lily was twirling in front of a mirror, admiring her gown, an expensive designer piece that had been custom-fitted to her. "You took my college fund," Claire said, her voice deadly calm. Her mother barely glanced up. "Lower your voice, dear. You took my college fund," Claire repeated, louder this time, her hands trembling. Her father sighed, setting down his tea. "Claire, don't be dramatic. It wasn't just yours, it was for both of you. And we had to make a decision on where it would be best spent." Claire's stomach twisted. "Best spent?" she echoed. Her mother set down her teacup with an exasperated sigh. "Sweetheart, think rationally. Lily's debut is an opportunity. Do you know the kind of people who will be there? This is an investment in our future. She has a real chance of securing a good match. And what about my future?" Claire's voice cracked. Her father frowned, as if she were being deliberately obtuse. "You'll figure something out. You always do. That's your strength, isn't it?" Claire could barely breathe. "You're saying my future wasn't worth investing in?" Lily finally turned from the mirror, rolling her eyes. "Oh my God, Claire, stop being so dramatic. College isn't everything. You know. You don't need some fancy degree to be successful. Maybe you should just," she smirked, "work on your personality instead." Their parents chuckled as if she had just made a harmless joke. Something inside Claire shattered. She had spent years accepting the imbalance, telling herself that as long as she worked hard enough, she could overcome it. But this was different. This was deliberate, calculated. They had chosen Lily's luxury over Claire's future. And they weren't even ashamed of it. Claire felt something cold settle in her chest. Fine. If they wanted to treat her like she was disposable, she would show them just how costly that mistake would be. Claire didn't cry. She didn't beg. She didn't scream about the injustice of it all. Instead, she walked upstairs, shut her bedroom door, and started planning. They had stolen her future. But that didn't mean she was going to let them define it. The next morning, while her parents were busy finalizing details for Lily's grand debut, Claire was making calls. She reached out to every scholarship program she could find, applying for anything and everything, even the obscure ones meant for students majoring in fields she hadn't even considered yet. She sent emails to college admissions offices, explaining her situation and asking about emergency grants. At night, when the house was silent, she researched alternative ways to fund her education. Student loans were an option, but she knew that route would leave her drowning in debt. She needed something else. Then, she found it, a high-stakes essay competition, one that awarded full-ride scholarships to a top-tier university. The deadline was in 2 weeks. The challenge? To write about personal resilience in the face of adversity. Claire almost laughed. If they wanted resilience, she had plenty to give. She wrote like her life depended on it, because it did. Every night, she sat at her desk, pouring her heart into that essay, crafting every word with the precision of someone who had everything to lose. She recounted every time she had been pushed aside, ignored, treated as if her potential was insignificant. But she didn't make it a story of bitterness. No, she turned it into a testament of strength. By the time she submitted it, Claire wasn't just hoping for the scholarship. She knew she had written something powerful. While she waited for the results, she took on extra shifts at the local cafe, saving every dollar she could. When her parents scoffed at her working a low-class job, she just smiled. Let them think they had won. The day of Lily's debutante ball arrived, and Claire played her part perfectly. She dressed in a simple black dress, not to celebrate, but because she had been assigned as one of the event assistants, ensuring the perfect night for her golden sister. As Lily waltzed across the ballroom in her custom gown, dazzling the guests, Claire's phone vibrated in her pocket. She stepped outside, away from the laughter and music, and checked the email. Congratulations, Claire, you have been selected as the recipient of the full-ride academic scholarship. Welcome to your future. Claire grinned. They had spent every penny they had making sure Lily looked like a princess for one night. Meanwhile, Claire had secured a future worth more than any dress, venue, or wealthy fiancé could ever provide. And the best part? They had no idea what was coming. Claire didn't intend to tell her family about the scholarship. At least, not yet. She wanted to savor the victory, to feel the weight of her own success without their interference. But fate had other plans. The morning after Lily's grand debutante ball, Claire was sipping coffee in the kitchen when Lily walked in. Still wrapped in the glow of the previous night's attention, she yawned dramatically, stretching in her silk robe before plopping into a chair across from Claire. God, I'm exhausted, Lily sighed, rubbing her temples. Do you know how hard it is to be charming for hours? Claire didn't respond, too focused on the notification that had just popped up on her phone. It was a confirmation from her university, listing out everything the scholarship would cover: tuition, housing, books, even a small stipend for personal expenses. Lily caught the way Claire's eyes lit up and raised an eyebrow. What's that? Claire hesitated for half a second before answering. I got a scholarship. Lily blinked. Like, a real scholarship? Not some tiny little thing that barely covers books? Claire set her phone down and met her sister's gaze. A full scholarship. Everything paid for the first time in years. Lily looked genuinely impressed. Wait, you're serious? Claire nodded. Lily leaned forward, suddenly intrigued. That's amazing. Where's it for? Claire hesitated again. If she told her, Lily would run straight to their parents. And Claire wasn't in the mood for another round of condescending dismissal. But something in her sister's face made her pause. It wasn't just curiosity, there was something else there. Something almost proud? Columbia, Claire finally admitted. Lily's eyes widened. Columbia? Like, Ivy League Columbia? Yes. For the first time in Claire's life, Lily looked at her with something other than superiority. There was admiration in her expression. Even awe. This is incredible, Lily said, shaking her head in disbelief. You did this all on your own? Claire nodded again. Lily sat back, processing. You know, I could talk to Mom and Dad. Maybe they could help with. No. Claire's voice was firm. Lily frowned. Why not? Because I don't need their help. Claire said, her jaw tightening. They didn't believe in me. They didn't support me. They made it clear that their money, their investments, their dreams were for you, not me. And now that I've found my own way out, I won't let them sink their claws into it. Lily was quiet for a moment, then nodded slowly. I get that, but maybe they'll be proud of you now. Maybe. Before she could finish, their mother entered the kitchen. She was impeccably dressed, despite the early hour, and her sharp eyes landed on the two of them immediately. What are you two whispering about? She asked, pouring herself a cup of tea. Claire didn't answer, but Lily, still excited, blurted it out. Mom, Claire got a full-ride scholarship to Columbia. The moment the words left her mouth, the temperature in the room seemed to drop. Their mother stiffened, her grip on the teacup tightening. What? She asked, her voice deceptively calm. Claire sighed, already bracing for impact. I got a scholarship. A full one. Tuition, housing, everything covered. Their mother's lips pursed as if she had just tasted something sour. And when were you planning to tell us this? Claire folded her arms. I don't know. Maybe never. Their father entered the room just in time to hear the last part. Never, he repeated, frowning. What's this about a scholarship? She got into Columbia. Lily answered for her, still sounding excited. A full ride. Their father's reaction mirrored their mother's stiff posture. Narrowed eyes. An uncomfortable silence stretching between them. Claire wasn't surprised. They weren't proud. They were threatened. That's quite an accomplishment. Their mother finally said, though the words felt forced. But it would have been wiser to discuss this with us first. Why? Claire asked, her voice steady. Their mother set her teacup down with a small clink. Because, darling, decisions like this affect the family. We've invested so much into ensuring that Lily has every opportunity to marry well and secure all our futures. It would be selfish of you to run off and leave all the responsibility on her shoulders. Claire's stomach turned. Responsibility for what? The family name. Their father interjected, his tone firm. Lily's debut was about positioning us within the right circles. Your education should align with that, not take you away from it. So let me get this straight, Claire said, gripping the edge of the table. You're telling me I should turn down an Ivy League education because it doesn't fit your social strategy? Their mother gave her a patronizing smile. Don't be dramatic, dear. Of course, you can attend college. Oh, now I can? Claire scoffed. Because last time I checked, my education was a waste of money. Her mother waved a hand dismissively. Things have changed. Yeah, Claire said coldly. They changed the moment I didn't need you anymore. Their father's jaw tightened. That attitude won't get you far. Claire exhaled slowly, then stood. I think I'll be just fine. She turned to leave, but Lily grabbed her wrist. Claire, wait, her sister said, her voice softer now. I want to help. I can talk to them. I can. Claire pulled her hand away gently. You don't need to. Lily, this isn't your fight. Lily hesitated, torn between loyalty to her parents and admiration for her sister. For a brief moment, Claire saw the younger version of Lily, the one who used to share secrets with her under the covers. The one who wasn't yet molded into the perfect golden child. But it was too late. Their parents had spent years crafting Lily into their ideal, just like they had spent years pushing Claire aside. And Claire wasn't about to waste any more time trying to change their minds. Without another word, she left the kitchen, leaving Lily standing between their disapproving parents. Caught in a battle she wasn't sure how to fight. Years passed, and Claire built the life she had once been told she could never have. Columbia had been a whirlwind, intellectually demanding, socially challenging, but also liberating. For the first time, Claire was surrounded by people who saw her for her intelligence, not as an afterthought to a more dazzling sibling. She excelled, throwing herself into her studies, landing competitive internships, and eventually securing a coveted position at a top law firm straight out of law school. Her name was no longer whispered in condescension at family gatherings. It was printed in legal journals, mentioned in industry circles, and, more importantly, attached to success that was entirely her own. Claire never looked back, at least. Not until the day her family came knocking. The fall of the Golden family. It started with a single text from Lily. "Call me. It's urgent." Claire hesitated before replying. She and Lily had spoken occasionally over the years. But their conversations were surface level, never diving too deeply into the past. Lily had stayed with their parents, living the life they had designed for her, one of privilege, connections, and the constant, suffocating pressure to be perfect. Claire wasn't sure she wanted to reopen that door, but curiosity won out. When she finally picked up the phone, Lily's voice was frantic. "Claire, I need to see you. It's about Mom and Dad." Claire met her sister at a small cafe downtown. The moment Lily sat down, Claire knew something was wrong. The once polished, always poised sister she had grown up with now looked drained, like the weight of the world had finally settled on her shoulders. "They're losing everything," Lily blurted out, gripping her coffee cup like a lifeline. "Dad's business collapsed. The investments, everything they put their money into, it's all gone. They overextended themselves trying to keep up appearances. And now they can't even afford the mortgage." Claire took a slow sip of her coffee, letting the information settle, and Lily flinched at the coldness in her tone. "They need help." Claire tilted her head, feigning curiosity. "Help? As in, financial help?" Lily nodded, her expression pleading. "Claire, I know they weren't fair to you. I know they treated you horribly. But they're still our parents. They're struggling. They made their choice." Claire cut in. "They gambled everything on you. On their investment. And now that it didn't pay off, they suddenly remember they have another daughter?" Lily swallowed hard. "Claire, it's not like that." Claire raised an eyebrow. "Really? Because the last time I checked, I was the daughter who wasn't worth a dime. I was the one sent to be a server at your debutante ball. I was the one who had to fight for every scrap of opportunity while they threw everything at you." She leaned forward, voice steady. "And now that the money's gone, they're suddenly interested in my success?" Lily looked down, her fingers tightening around her cup. "I didn't know things would turn out like this. I didn't realize how much pressure they put on me, how much they used me too." Claire exhaled, some of her anger softening. She believed Lily, at least, to an extent, but that didn't change the past. "So what do you want from me?" Claire asked. "A check? A loan? A bailout for the parents who treated me like an unwanted expense?" Lily shook her head quickly. "No, I mean, maybe that's what they want. But I don't expect you to help them. She hesitated. "I just wanted to see you. To talk to you. Because I think, no. I know, they were wrong. And I'm sorry I didn't see it sooner." Claire studied her for a moment, searching for the deception she had come to expect from her family. But there was none, just regret. She sighed, setting her coffee down. "Lily, I spent my whole life waiting for Mom and Dad to see my worth. And when they didn't, I stopped waiting. I made my own path. And I won't let them drag me back into their mess just because their golden plan fell apart." Lily nodded, her eyes glistening. "I get it." Claire hesitated, then softened her tone. "What about you? Are you still stuck in their sinking ship?" Lily let out a hollow laugh. "Not for long. I moved out last week. Got a job. A real one. I'm finally trying to be more than what they made me. For the first time in years." Claire saw something real in her sister, something beyond privilege and expectation. Maybe, just maybe, Lily wasn't beyond saving. Claire reached into her bag and pulled out a business card. "If you're serious about that," she said, sliding it across the table. "Call me. I know people. I can help." Lily picked up the card, studying it like it was a lifeline. "Thank you, Claire." Claire simply nodded. As for their parents, she never called them, never reached out. She had given them years to see her, to believe in her, to choose her. They never did. And now, they would have to live with that choice. Years passed, and Claire had built something undeniable, something unstoppable. She was no longer the forgotten daughter, the unwanted expense, the child deemed unworthy of investment. She was a force of nature. Her legal career had skyrocketed. By 32, she had her own firm specializing in corporate litigation. representing high-profile clients, and making a name for herself as someone who never lost. The same people who once overlooked her now sought her out. CEOs, investors, and industry leaders sat across from her, hanging onto her every word. She had what her parents had always worshipped: status, power, and control. But unlike them, she had earned it. Then one day, an interesting case landed on her desk. A foreclosure suit. And the names on the documents? Her parents. Claire leaned back in her chair, staring at the familiar names, letting the weight of it sink in. The lavish home they had once proudly hosted social gatherings in? It was slipping through their fingers. The empire they had tried to build through Lily, through connections and appearances, crumbling. They had exhausted their resources, their credit, and their last remaining favors. The same high society crowd they once adored had turned their backs on them. And now, fate, or perhaps karma, had placed their downfall directly in Claire's hands. She had a choice. She could let the process unfold naturally, watch from the sidelines as the bank stripped them of the house they had valued more than their own daughter. Or, she could buy it herself. The thought sent a thrill through her. Not out of pettiness, not out of revenge, but because power was a currency her parents had once used to control her, and now she held all of it. And so, with a single stroke of her pen, Claire signed the deal. The house belonged to her. The last meeting. A week later, she stood at the edge of the grand estate, watching as movers carried furniture out to the curb. Her parents stood frozen in the doorway, their expressions a mixture of disbelief and desperation. Claire, her mother finally spoke, voice trembling. This was our home. You wouldn't. I did. Claire interrupted smoothly. It's mine now. Her father's face turned red. You can't do this. She raised an eyebrow. Really? Because I just did. Her mother's eyes glistened with unshed tears. Claire, please, we're family. Claire let out a small, humorless laugh. Family? She took a step forward, meeting their eyes with cold certainty. You treated me like an afterthought. You told me I wasn't worth investing in. And now, you stand here, expecting me to save you? She let the silence hang between them before delivering the final blow. I was never your investment, she said, but I am my own success. And you? You're just another bad bet that didn't pay off. With that, she turned on her heel and walked away, leaving them standing there, powerless. Just as they had once made her feel. A future without regret. Claire never looked back. She didn't lose sleep over them. She didn't wonder how they were doing. She didn't waste another moment seeking validation from people who had never valued her in the first place. Instead, she built a life filled with real connections, mentors, friends, and eventually, a chosen family who saw her for who she was, not just what she could offer. And as for Lily, she took Claire's advice, got her own place, built a career, freed herself from their parents' grip. Years later, as they sat together on a balcony overlooking the city, Claire raised her glass in a quiet toast. To the life they said we couldn't have, she murmured. Lily clinked her glass against Claire's, smiling. And to proving them wrong. Claire smiled back, the weight of the past finally gone. She hadn't just survived, she had won. This story isn't just about revenge, it's about self-worth, resilience, and breaking free from toxic expectations. Claire was cast aside by her own family, deemed unworthy simply because she didn't fit their narrow definition of success. But instead of letting their rejection define her, she took control of her future, proving that real success comes from perseverance, not privilege. She didn't just survive, she thrived. On her own terms. What do you think? Did Claire make the right choice in walking away? Or should she have forgiven her family? Comment 2 if you loved her journey. Or 7 if you think she should have handled things differently. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to Reddit Story for more gripping tales of karma and redemption.